Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. This time, I'm continuing the Underworld series with Underworld Awakening. This is the fourth film in the series. It is an action horror film directed by Mons Marland, I think, and Bjorn Stein from 2020 or 2012. Sorry, and it stars Kate Beckinsale, Stephen Ray. Uh, Michael Ealy, Theo James, India Isley, Charles Dance. Yeah, and Charles Dance. There you go. In this film, having escaped years of imprisonment, warrioress Selene finds herself in a changed world where humans have discovered the existence of both vampire and lichen clans and are conducting an all-out war to eradicate both immortal species. Now, Selene must battle the humans and a frightening new breed of super lichens to ensure the Death Dealer's survival. So, what did I think of Underworld Awakening? Now, I can see why a lot of people are not huge on this one. I definitely can. The massive amounts of inconsistencies between this film and the first two, especially, since the third one apparently has a lot of inconsistencies, but none of them really bothered me. I think this film is kind of a time waster. Like, because there are a lot of stupid fucking things in this, but there are also some really nice moments and things that I definitely can enjoy. A lot of things that are still fixed from the first and second film. And yeah, like I don't think I'd ever watch this again, but I'm glad that it had the forethought to be super short, and I'll get to that. But yeah, um, Kate Beckinsale to the cast before I get to this. Kate Beckinsale plays Selene. I think she's still good in the role, but her character is quite massively changed in this in certain ways, and I will get to that. But she still pulls off the badassness of the character. Stephen Ray plays Dr. Jacob Lane. He's working for this company called Antigen, and he's trying to he's like taking some type of essence out of werewolves or something, or hybrids, in order to make himself more powerful. Um, I like Stephen Ray. He's in a really underrated movie called what's the one with the car? Uh, Stuck. Stuck is a great thriller that more people should watch. He's a great actor. He does well here, but his character is kind of bland. Michael Ealy plays Detective Sebastian. He's a cop that ends up helping Selene at one point. Michael Ealy, I like him as an actor, but here he's kind of boring in a way. He doesn't really do a lot. India Isley plays Eve. Excuse me. Theo James plays David. He's a vampire death dealer that ends up helping Selene. I don't mind Theo James as an actor. I think he does a good job here. He gets to do some shit in the action scenes, and I think he did well. India Isley plays Eve. She is a hybrid that Stephen Ray's character was operating on. I've always liked India Isley. She's in what I consider to be one of the best horror films of the past couple decades, Look Away. She was in Every Breath You Take. I liked that film as well. Amerigeddon was interesting idea, but bad execution. The Curse of Sleeping Beauty, like I think there was something there, but I hate how it ends up. But India Isley does great here in a very early role in her career. Um, Charles Dance plays Thomas, who's kind of this movie's version of Victor. I think he's supposed to be a vampire elder, um, but we've never seen of him or heard of him before. But I still do like Charles Dance. I like him in this, even though he doesn't have a lot to do. The first thing I have to bring up about this movie, Celine's character is very different. So if you remember in Underworld Evolution, I keep saying evolution, evolution, Underworld Evolution. Whenever Selene came face to face with humans, she did her best to not kill them. In this film, pretty much every human that tries to fight her or anything like that, she ends up brutally killing them. Like there's one fucking guy that she like bends in half, like uh it's really, I think she like bends him in half backwards. There's one guy that she like stabs him in the chest with his gun and then like stomps on his face and his face fucking explodes. Like there's some really good gore shit in here, but I have a theory on this. I'm a bit 50-50 on it. Her killing humans now. Because in this new world, or in this timeline, uh even before she gets put under, there are the government is told to hunt vampires and werewolves because they are known, everybody knows who they are now. Because Alexander Corvinus, I'm guessing, this is what I heard from somebody to make sense. Alexander Corvinus had been spending all this time sending his armies out, killing the Lycans off so that they didn't have that problem. Because the vampires weren't really doing anything, apparently. But now that he's dead, they like got out of hand, I guess. I guess that's their explanation. But here's the thing with it. I wouldn't have so much of an issue with this if the only people she killed were people who were an actual threat to her. Like when the like SWAT teams and the cops that like shoot vampires and werewolves on sight. I understand defending herself against them because they're shooting at her and shit. I get it. That can work. There's a couple times where it doesn't. There's a scientist that like tries to inject her with something, I think, and then she ends up breaking his arm and stabbing him in the head with a knife. And I was like, okay, I get it. He like, no, maybe it was a knife. He like has a knife in her neck, and I'm like, I get it if it was a human and she like somehow stopped herself from not like bleeding out and then did it. But she's a vampire, and that doesn't really affect her. And then she just fucking brutalizes him. And there's another scientist that ends up that lets her go. She comes back to ask him questions. Gives her all the information she needs. She says now we're even, drops him out of like a sixth floor of a fucking his apartment building, falls onto his car, just blood and guts everywhere. Like he didn't do shit. Like I'm guessing what you're supposed to think is just because these guys work for um this guy, they're all evil. But I really don't get that feeling because I don't think any of them really, on any of the like scientists really knew what he was doing with it because he seems very secretive about it, and we don't learn about it until later that a lot of the people working there are Lycans. But I don't know, just something about her just kind of going kill crazy and being okay with killing humans at this point just felt like a weird change. Um, but maybe I'm just wrong. If somebody can explain to me in the comments why I'm wrong, I'd like that actually. But otherwise, there are some other weird things about this movie. Um, I'm not huge on the whole like skipping ahead in the timeline thing because we already had kind of a setup in evolution about what we're gonna do, which was the whole we're gonna try to survive and all that. And not try to survive, but where they were like one step closer to ending the vampire Lycan war. And by having them kind of just go into the future 12 years, like skipping ahead in the plot, it just felt like, oh, we don't want any of these actually interesting characters anymore. So we're just gonna go back to, I guess, our original, these new original characters like Theo James's character and India Isley's character, which I don't mind their characters, but it just feels kind of like a cop out in a way. Like there was more stuff you could have explored, but it just seems weird to not explore it. It just seems weird to skip ahead like that. I'm not huge on that. Um, uh, the film also, okay, so Scott Speedman was always one of my issues with the first two films. I was never a fan of Scott Speedman's acting. Michael as a character was kind of boring. Uh, like it's cool that you have the character that's working with her that's a hybrid, but they didn't really do a lot with it. He was just kind of a killing machine. Uh, Here he's played by a stand-in because they didn't have Scott Speedman in this film. Also, by the way, this is the highest budgeted film in the series. It's 70 million budget. Pretty high budget. I don't think it's because Scott Speedman, maybe he didn't want to come back, but he barely did anything for any of the other movies, so I don't really see why it would have been an issue that he'd come back. But whatever. He basically is there to set up this whole like, okay, he shows up at the beginning and then there's allusion to him at the end. So he's not really here that much. He's in the beginning, he doesn't say anything, and he gets knocked out and frozen. Um, so it felt kind of bland. The way that they approached that, I was like, okay, this is a cop out. You could have had him still the stand-in guy still play the character, which he doesn't look exactly like Scott Speedman, but he looks enough like him that you could have him play the character. It's not really that big of a deal. But yeah, I wasn't big on that. The villain the villain's motivations are okay, I guess, but he is so just not nearly as interesting of a villain as Victor or um well, yeah, Victor. Because again, Marcus I wasn't a fan of, but like he was not nearly as interesting as a villain as Victor. And he's just kind of, oh, Stephen Ray. Excuse me. Kind of just chewing the scenery whenever he's on screen, which I like him, but it's just really odd. Um, that they just go to kind of a boring like Lycan villain. But that's the thing. I don't there are a lot of inconsistencies with the series, but overall I did still have a bit of fun here. Stupid fun. One thing I can give credit to, the action is a lot better than it was in Evolution. It's a lot better than it was in Evolution. A lot less of the really shitty CGI blood from Evolution. The CGI blood looks a lot better. The CGI in general has been improved in many cases. The again, the werewolf designs are still really cool. Um, the pace is very nice. This film, without credits, is about 78 minutes, so about an hour and 18 minutes. So like it's really short, but I kind of like that also that it didn't like spend a fuck ton of time like failing to like if they spent more time and they wasted it like not even actually fleshing out the characters, I wouldn't have been happy with that. But I'm glad that it like kept had the I'm glad that it had the foresight to be like, okay, let's at least keep it short. Um the again, even though she's killing a lot of these cops and it's like the first time she's ever done that, the action there is still very gory and brutal. This is possibly the most brutal film in the series. Um, and I can actually support that. I like that there's some gore here. Uh, Again, I enjoyed David and Eve's characters, even though like Eve could have had a bit more to her character, so could David, but I still didn't hate them as additions. Um, the score was pretty decent. Paul Haslinger from the first and third films came back. We don't have Marco Beltrami from the second. Um, Again, decent score. And again, there's some really badass moments. There's a bit where Selene ends up cutting. She ends up like sticking her hand into this lichen. He's in his human form, his stomach, pulling her hand out, and then she apparently like left a grenade inside him, and then he like tries turning into a lichen to stop it. You see it explode, and his body hasn't changed, and then he just kind of melts and then explodes everywhere. Badass moments. Um, some really nice bits of her flipping around and doing her thing, shooting. Uh, but yeah, like if you aren't super particular about the lore and everything, I can see you enjoying this. It's not amazing entertainment, but I can at least say that I did enjoy my time watching it to an extent. And I've only got one movie left in the series, so we'll see how that is. But yeah, that was my review of Underworld Awakening. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door. Out.